we know it can happen, but I'm doing my best to make it work um, smoothly today here with you. Okay, so just stop me if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions, if something is not clear. All right, feel free to interrupt me anytime. So, this is what I have planned for us to cover today in this short time here we have. I've broken the presentation into three parts here. So, first, we're going to look at some facts and figures and see the important, or remind ourselves of the importance of the language, the English language in our lives and in our students' lives today, by looking at information from some Cambridge reports, from the media. We're going to look at what's going on in the world, if you like. We're then going to move on to look at learners and exams. So, what exactly do we need to bear in mind? Do we need to get prepared for when we are helping learners get prepared for international certifications? All right. And then we're going to look at ourselves as at our teachers and better understand what we need to take into account so that we get better prepared to prepare our learners as well. Does that sound okay to you? Type here in the chat if this sounds all right to you, please. Lots of people from different places in the country. Thank you very much once again for joining me here today. So we have Rio de Janeiro, we have Brasília, Piracicaba. All right. So thank you very much. Let's get started then, because we have quite a lot to cover. And then at the end of the talk, if you want to have a conversation here, if you want to send more questions, feel free to do so. So I'm going to start by showing these two quotes from this Cambridge report, English at Work, and I have the reference for you at the end of the presentation as well. The first quote goes, "Today, English is the only language that provides us with the latest knowledge. It is the language of business, science, etiquette, and innovations." I know this is not a big surprise to any of you here, but it's important for us to remind ourselves that when we are when we're doing some desk research, when we're looking for articles, when we're looking for publications, the language that connects all these needs, that puts everything together, is English. The language that makes this communication or the findings more possible is English. So no matter the field people work in, the research that brings the latest pieces of information that is going to get everybody better prepared is English. I know, once again, this is not new, but it's important to highlight this, and you'll understand why in a few minutes. The next one goes, "We live in an increasingly connected world, and communication is an important part in this process." And we all know, right? Communication is a huge problem anywhere, be it at the workplace, be it in the classroom, be it in our families, right? We know communication is a huge problem, and we're always trying to find ways to communicate better. And here we are looking at communication using a different language. We're looking at communication using English. Oh, hello from Mexico. Hi, Karen. So the quote here goes, "People who can communicate," and here communicate in English, "are more likely to grow professionally and personally." And we know that knowing a second language, knowing a foreign language, can open many doors to us, can help us communicate with more people. So here, once again, highlighting the importance of speaking a language, a second language actually, more fluently. Okay, so these two pieces of information here to get us started in the conversation. And we know that this happened before, but especially during and now after, if we can say after the pandemic, many more opportunities have come to us when we think about working abroad or studying abroad, and not necessarily going abroad to do so. Of course, we can do it now, right? So this is going back to normal, whatever normal is. But the opportunities are out there. So here I have two examples that focus a bit more on academic opportunities here. The first one showing this growing demand for students from private schools here, in this case, to study abroad. So we see a group of maybe high schoolers here going to study abroad. And then the next one here on the right is about Chevening. I don't know if everybody is familiar, if all of you are familiar with the Chevening Awards, but they have scholarship. They also have a fellowship program for people to go to the UK to do a master's or a doctorate program and then come back to Brazil in our case. So they go back to their country of origin and they apply the learnings they gathered in this course. So they fund your master's degree, for example. But of course, you need to prove that you have the level of English to follow the course that you have chosen, right? And for that, you need an international certification, right? So these are just some examples of how important it is first to be fluent in the language and then to prove that you have that level of fluency, right? The Tivani mixes the academic and professional realities, and the other one for the schools here, mainly the academic opportunity. And we have also seen a growing number of opportunities for students and for high schoolers and for university students to go abroad using their skills in sports, for example, and then they can gain a scholarship as well to study in the US, in Canada, in Australia, in different countries. So they put together their knowledge of the language, and they put together their abilities, their sporting abilities, and they can go abroad to put things together, to put fun, leisure, and something more, let's say, useful for their future together. Useful in the sense of an academic development, right? So all this to illustrate, to just get us started in this talk here. And then we have this amazing number, which is from 2019, actually. It was reported in 2020, but the number is from 2019 here, about the number of Cambridge English exams taken in that year. So 7 million Cambridge English exams before the pandemic. I couldn't find the numbers for during or post-pandemic periods, but here we can see that it was already a huge number. So you have a world of opportunities out there. So if you are a teacher, you are certainly concerned about how you can better prepare your students for international certifications, and also how you can better prepare yourself to teach better lessons, to deliver more high quality lessons, right? And then if you like, we can think of a sort of a formula for success, right? If we put together learner preparation and teacher knowledge, we are bound to get more successful results, right? Do you agree with me? So type here, interact with me here, because it's hard enough not to see you here on the screen. So if you type something here, it shows you're interacting with me. So the successful results we're going to gather at the end of this process here means that we are helping our learners get better prepared for the certifications. And for that, we start by looking at the learners themselves. If you have younger learners, if you have teenagers, adults from different levels, they're going to have different needs, of course, right? And depending on what their objectives are, on what they are looking for, or what they aim to achieve in the near future, in the distant future, you're going to need to help them get prepared in a different way, right? So, and depending on their level of fluency at the time of preparation as well, the preparation is going to be personalized in a different way, if you like, right? If you have taken language certification courses or methodology courses, before as a teacher, you are going to tell me, you're certainly going to tell me that you have heard that the key to better learning a second language is exposure. So the more you are exposed to the foreign language, the language you're studying, better the chances of you acquiring or learning that language. And why is that? The more you are systematically listening to that language, so let's only use English here for this purpose. The more you are listening to English, the more you're reading in English, the more you are practicing your speaking ability in English, the more you're writing in English, the faster you're going to learn the language, right? And then this exposure has to happen in a way that it's going to help you systematize your knowledge. And we're going to talk about systematization soon as well. So being exposed to this language doesn't need to be only when you are formally studying the language. It can happen in the free time as well. And then you tell me, oh, come on, Catarina, it's my free time. Are you going to have me study in my free time as well? Well, I ask you, why not? right? If you have this goal in mind, if you want to do, if your learners, let's focus on the learners, sorry, it's not you at the moment. If your learners want to do a course abroad, if they want to live abroad, we have lots of people migrating and moving to Canada, to the West, to the UK, Australia, and many other countries here where English is the first language. If that's your ambition, if that's your learner's ambition, they need to find a way to maximize their learning opportunities. So, Netflix time, Spotify time, you name it, platform time can be turned into a learning opportunity. So, maybe you have an advanced learner who can communicate quite well, beautifully well, and then what you can tell them as well, and I'm sure you have told this before, as I can see here from Luca, um, use that time that you're watching your favorite TV show into a learning opportunity. So why not have your cell phone or a notepad next to you and take notes of things that you learn as you're watching the series? So you might hear a new word, you might hear a new use for a word you were familiar with, right? So making sure that you become more well versed in the language is a way to help you get prepared for the exam. Not only the exam, of course, but get better prepared for the exam situation here, because that's our focus at this moment, right? So let's suppose you're watching a movie that has just been launched, and then there is that new word there, and then you somehow manage your, that's you talking to your learner, you somehow manage to drop the word in the composition or to drop the word during the interview. Why not? So that shows how up to date you are with using the English language. And we know that the English language is extremely alive, if that's something I can say, right? We know that we have heard David Crystal say before that the language belongs to the people who use it. So there is no owner to any language, right? So the more you use the language, the more you get empowered by using that language, the better you are, the higher the chances are for you to have a better result in the certification. So far, so good. Let me see. I see there are some comments here. Success depends on both participants, learner and teacher. Absolutely, Fernanda. So by the more we learn about our learners' needs, the better we can get prepared for that. Maybe they come to you telling you they want to sit for a certification that you haven't heard of before. So your homework will be to do some research on that new certification and find ways to help them get better prepared and focus on the specificities of that kind of exam, right? Um, Viviane says that when she was getting prepared to go through the CAE or the advanced, Cambridge Advanced, right, C1, she used to watch the Big Bang Theory. So having fun and learning English and studying at the same time. Fantastic, Viviane, right? I can share the slides, absolutely. You can also feel free to take any pictures you want. In my presentation, you're going to see that there's very little text. There are more pictures, but feel free to do so. And I have already shared the slides with Giselle. So just drop me an email later if you somehow don't manage to download it later. Okay, don't worry. I will share with you. All right. So something that is extremely important when learners are getting prepared to sit for an exam, or when you yourselves are doing so, is to have a study routine, right? That's the key to success. It happens when they're doing vestibular, doesn't it? Or it should happen when they are doing vestibular or ENEM. So why not when they're doing a language certification? So this routine needs to include a series of things, and then I have a list compiling a few tips that you can share with your learners as well. So this is coming in a few slides. But here, the idea is to help learners find the best time for this to work. So maybe they go to school in the morning, let's say, right? Let's focus on students who are still in their school years. They go to school in the morning, and then in their afternoons, they are split into sporting activities and English lessons and music lessons. So they need to find a routine, and that should happen systematically throughout the week. It should not be only one day, once a week, right? It should be broken into small, let's say, slots throughout the week to help them, be more in contact with the type of the exam, to study language itself, not only do the exam practice itself, sorry, the exam practice itself, as we're going to talk about here. But the idea here is to have a routine. So now it's the time I'm going to study vocabulary. So then I read a book, I open my language book, my book from my English lesson, and I focus on the vocabulary section. I study how words are formed in English. I study how I can turn a noun into a verb and vice versa, and then all the jazz that you're familiar with, right? So today I'm going to study grammar, and I'm going to revise all the grammar from my last semester and revise what I'm doing this semester. Or I'm going to study pronunciation today, and I'm going to listen to a range of accents to get more uh, familiar with accents I'm not very used to listening to. So, and that can happen as well. I'm sure you have told your students as well that they can do so by listening to music or listening to interviews or podcasts or watching YouTube videos or watching series and movies from different areas, from different countries, from different regions of the world, right? So they get their ears more tuned to listening to different accents, different ages of people as well. We know that when we listen to children, to teenagers, to older people, to senior citizens, the speed of delivery is different. So this is a tip that you can give them as well, because we know that in the listening passages in exams, you have a range of people talking, right? Men, women, young people, more senior people. So this is a good tip you can give them as well, right? But the key factor here is to have a routine. Routine is crucial here, right? They can add some variety to the routine, of course, right? But it's important to have a systematized routine for them to get better prepared for the exams, right? Fernanda says here that she always tells her students, and she's sure that she's not the only one here, that a lot of the English she's learned was from songs, movies, and series. Fernanda, yes, you're not alone. The same happened with me. So when I started learning English many years ago, I used to translate Bon Jovi, U2 songs, and to translate readers as well. That's how I got started, because my parents couldn't afford an English course. So that's how I got started. So yes, music can be a fantastic way to learn English, right? And you have websites that can help learners practice that, put these two things together. So for example, lyrics.com. Is it lyrics.com? Help me here. I don't quite remember that. But you can, lyrics training, sorry, I just remember, lyricstraining.com. You choose the song, and then you choose the level of English, and then you have to listen to the song and type at the same time. So this is a good way to practice as well, right? Excellent. So let's see here. I think Lucas said something is true. I remember a video of Henry Cavill, sorry, in which he talks about his nephew and that he used to say, I don't like it. Yeah. There are many things we don't like, right? We don't like paying bills, we don't like paying taxes, but we have to do, right? And this study routine is part of the drill here of doing the preparation for a certification. After that study routine, it's extremely important you help learners systematize this knowledge. So, be it a lexical notebook, be it something they can do using Miro, using something technological, for example. I don't know, you can help them find ways to systematize their learning. It's important that they put things into boxes that they can access more easily when they need to when they need to interact in English, when they need to communicate, or when they're sitting for the exam day itself, right? So finding ways to use, so for example, the image I chose here has post-its. I absolutely love post-its, and I'm sure that most, if not all, the teachers here are with me, right? So that's absolutely amazing. Hi, Marusha, good to have you here. So using post-its can be a fantastic way to categorize or to split things here, or just on the wall, just in front of me, I have a post-it with things from work, right? So I start, and crossing out the things I have done gives me a sense of accomplishment. Many times I don't cross many things, but that's a discussion for another day. Here we're talking about the systematization. So using different colors, using different color pens, or using boards, using boxes, using cards. They need to find a way to systematize their learning, sorry. And then this is going to help them organize their mind when they are studying. And then here, moving on to, and I'll go back there as well, to language awareness, helping them better understand the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts of language is extremely important. And why is that? When they're doing, for example, an exercise or a task in the exam, sorry, when they need to transform words, when they need to transform a whole sentence, or when they are pressed not for time but for words in the composition, and they need to adapt the words they have chosen. They need to be more aware of the features of the English language so they can manipulate it for their own benefit. Do you agree with me? It's a way to help them feel more empowered. So if they better understand how the language works, if they understand how to change things, the nuance of things. And here I'm almost going into talking about discourse analysis, because depending on the way you want to communicate something, or to whom you're talking, or how you want to sound or come across, is all connected with language awareness. So the more you know about language, and this is what language awareness is, the more you know about language, the better you can communicate, right? And then when you talk about teachers, there is a slide for this as well. More on that coming soon. All right. Um, with this language awareness box in mind, we move on to talk about the exam practice moment of getting learners prepared. And this is a crucial moment for the preparation, because doing the practice under exam conditions will certainly help the brain accommodate what's going to happen on the D day, right? I remember when I was studying for my Delta a while ago as well. I remember using my lunch break to do different parts of the exam of the Delta Module 1. So what I did was I had my cell phone with a timer next to me. I chose the parts of the exam I could do in that amount of time, and then I timed myself, because that's the pressure I was going to have on the day of the exam. And I wrote the answers in ink, because that's what you have to do on the day of the exam. There is not enough time for you to write everything in pencil and then write everything in ink. If you have done the Delta, please type here that you agree with me that the same happened to you here, right? There is not enough time for you to do everything in pencil and then everything in pen. So this is a good way to help learners also get their minds organized and to practice handwriting if they are doing the exam in this mode, right? Using an answer sheet, for example, using the way that you see in the picture here, using a similar an answer sheet similar to the exam they are doing as well, is another way to help them get it prepared, right? So everything under exam conditions will help learners with this mindset of the exam, right? This is a final way here to look at the learners, but not the last one. Here is a collection, a compilation of tips that I got from different websites and from my own meandering experience as well, that you can help and learners, you can share actually with learners and help them systematize this procedure here, right? So the first very important thing is to find a quiet place to study, so you don't have too many pieces of information on your brain, too much for your brain to cope with. Getting prepared for an exam is already a lot. You need to focus a lot, you need to concentrate a lot, you need to eat the right foods, you need to drink a lot of water, right? I don't know if I put it here, I don't think I did, but drinking water helps a lot with the process of I forgot the word, God, of the processing of information, and with the creativity mode, and with the memorization as well. So drinking, staying hydrated is crucial, right? So finding this quiet place to study is a good way to get rid of distractions, which is the next one. So cell phone on flight mode. I know it's hard. I know people cannot cope with being away from their mobiles for so long, right? I know that, but it's important to study, because while doing the exam, you cannot check your Instagram, you cannot check your feed, you cannot look at your WhatsApp, right? So getting rid of distractions is extremely important here. Doing plenty of mock tests under exam conditions, as we just said. So learners should not do the exam while they're not feeling prepared enough. I know there are different types of pressure from different sources. I understand that, especially when you're talking about the professional scenario here. But having learners feel prepared after doing plenty of mock tests is the best way to help them feel more confident for the test, right? However, we should help them not to overdo it and to make sure they also find some time to rest. And this is extremely important. Just like we tell children that it's important to sleep so they grow more healthily, it's important to have rest as well, to have some rest and to have brain breaks as well, so that your brain can accommodate the information that you are going through, that you're studying, that you're learning, that you are reading, right? And one of the most important pieces of information here that you cannot tell learners enough is to tell them to plan the exam day, right? Make sure all the materials are ready and separated and in your bag and ready to go to the place, to the venue, right? To the place where you're taking the exam. All the documents, all the types of materials needed, right? Everything, a snack, a bottle of water, everything ready, right? When um, I was many times a supervisor for the exams, and I remember meeting learners there, receiving learners at the waiting room, and they had forgotten their ID, or they had forgotten the task paper, or they had forgotten pen, pencil, eraser, everything. So they were just there themselves, no documents, no materials, no anything. So of course, this happens because of the amount of stress they are going through, right? This is totally understandable. But once you help them understand that they need to prepare everything, get everything ready, chances are things will go more smoothly on the day of the exam, right? We cannot be 100% certain, but the idea is that things are going to go well or better, if you like, on the day of the exam. Let me just take a look at the chat here and see the comments we have here. Um, Great to have contact with kids as well. Students love lyrics training. I remember suggesting the use of lyrics training when I was doing the Delta as a way to help learners practice their listening. Let's see what else. Why is it so important to test the speed? Oops, here. I think the important thing is the person to show his understanding and knowledge. Well, Barbara, I think this is a discussion we can have. But my point here with the timer is that during the exam you have a time limit for it, for you to do the exam, right? So helping learners to do things within that time slot is a way to help them practice for the exam day. That's my point here. Depending on what you're going to do, for example, this very talk today, I have 1 hour to convey my ideas here, to share my ideas and to convey my point of view and to interact with you and to answer a few questions. So I have 1 hour, so I prepared things to happen. I prepared my slides to be delivered in a little bit less than 1 hour, so I had time to interact with the audience. So I think the preparation for the timing here they have is extremely important. So it's not exactly testing the speed, but helping them do what they have to do within the time frame. Do I answer your question? Let me know here. Marina says, very useful tips. Thanks, Marina. We definitely need to give advice that go beyond the language practice. Absolutely, absolutely. You hadn't thought about these things before. Great. So good to know that it's being useful. Yeah, there are things that we many times think of when we as teachers do the exams, right? So we're going to look at the teachers now a little bit more. So when we ourselves go back to the learner's shoes and we're doing a CELTA, or when we did the ICELT up to a few years ago, or when you're doing the Delta, or any other certifications, or like at CNA now we have one for teachers of Spanish. I don't know if you have seen it before. It's called Adelante, which is similar to CELTA. So when we go back to the learner's shoes and we have to go through the preparation again, we can maybe come up with strategies that help us go through the process, maybe not more easily, but maybe we find out things that can help us be more successful, right? I don't like the pressure either, Barbara. I know. And then I think that for some things we should have more time. For example, when you think about the IELTS interview, it's super snappy, right? And then we, as an examiner, we tell the candidates. Don't worry if I interrupt you. Don't worry if I stop you, because I will. That's the idea that's the message we're giving, right? And many times we do have that pressure to speak, but I agree with you. It's not something very comfortable. I know that. Um, so let's take a look here at how we as teachers can get better prepared. And I start by talking about teacher language awareness, which is a topic I really like discussing. And I hope we have a few minutes to go through this. As teachers, it's not enough for us to have knowledge of the English language. We need knowledge about the English language. And that's what TLA is, teacher language awareness. That's what it is. We have books on TLA. We have an association on TLA. There is a conference on TLA, right? And we need to question many times the information we know about the language, especially because of the fact that I mentioned a few minutes ago, that the English language is so organic and it changes so much that it's really hard to say that something is wrong, just, point blank here to students, right? So they ask us something and say, no, that's wrong. Nobody says that. Nobody is too many people, right? Nobody uses this. It's absolutely wrong. So maybe the first answer could be, that's interesting. I hadn't seen this used before, or I hadn't heard this pronunciation before. Let me check and go back to you. This is a safer answer to give learners, right? I don't know if you have been through the situation recently, and you can share here in the chat, but there have been many new uses to things we knew before that were, written on stone here, but it's not the case anymore, right? Some ways to help us develop our TLA include using books, so grammar books for teachers, like these two here. I don't know if you can see them. I hope you can. So if you have done courses for teachers, you have heard of the birds. So swan and parrot, infamous joke, I know. So this is grammar for English language teachers and practical English usage. So these are grammar books for language teachers, and they bring explanations that go beyond what you find in courses for learners. And the point here is that you need to be better prepared to teach grammar points or lexical points to learners, right? If you have used these books here, you can share your experience with them in the chat here. You can mention, you can comment on them here in the chat. But we have a number of ways for us as teachers to get better prepared or to be more well versed here in the language. So the same suggestions that I mentioned earlier for students, including watching movies and series and listening to podcasts and watching videos, etc., etc. All these work for us as well, right? All these can serve as a way for us to develop our language knowledge, right? And we can try and do different things with these pieces of information as well. When you recommend snippets or videos or series to learners, you can invite them and you can challenge them to find the pieces of information that you found yourselves, right? Nowadays, access to videos and all this streaming in English is much easier than it was when I was a student. That's for sure, right? And I'm not going to go that way back. But when I started teaching, which is just some years later, from when I was a student, I remember that it was still quite hard to find materials so easily accessible as we can find nowadays, right? I remember my favorite excuse to buy DVDs was because I was going to use them in my lessons, right? And I always try to bring updated materials to learners because that's extremely important for current communication. So giving access to current English, to real life English, is what is going to help learners to communicate better, more efficiently, more effectively, and with more fluency, right? Um, when we identify our learners' needs and what they're going to do the certifications for, what they need English for, what the exam is going to help them do, what the certification is going to do to them, which doors they are going to open, we can help them with specific learner training. So we can help foster more learner autonomy. We can help promote more autonomy in their study. So all these tips that we have been looking at so far is going to be they are going to be part of the action plan that you can share with them. They are going to contribute to their development and to their learning how to learn the language, learning how to do the exam, learning how to find the tricks that are going to help them. So, for example, when they are doing a certain certification, they are sitting for one of the exams, and you know that they can do this type of activity better than this type of activity. So they can do a multiple choice better than a gap fill, or they can do a sentence transformation better than a multiple choice activity. You guide them through the ones they can do more easily first, or better first, or they find they have some kind of logic in their brain to do better first, and then they can cope with the others so that they use their time more effectively. Going back to the issue of time, right? If you have any types of strategies, any specific strategies that you find very useful and they would like to share with the people watching us, please type them here as well, right? Let's see something that Fernanda said here. Sometimes they ask about some aspect of language. They are not the ones we are used to. I say I'm not familiar or I have never heard that used. That's great, Fernanda. That's how we should go about it, right? So learner training is giving learners the tool to help them learn better. And when we are talking about andragogy, this is one of the most important pillars when you're teaching adult learners. This is one of the most important things. So when we think about ourselves here, all of us here, so there are 70 of us online here in this talk. I know there are more people watching over different platforms. But when we think about us as grown-ups wanting to learn something, we have our own triggers, our own inside internal motives to learn that, right? And then sometimes we have what life brings us. We have the opportunities that our work lives present us. We have the opportunities that our academic lives present us with. And then we need to find the tools to help us be more empowered to get them, to achieve them, right? So that's what learner training is about. And of course, I cannot reinforce enough or emphasize enough the importance of feedback and guidance to learners. They need to know. They need to know what is being done right in their studies, where they are getting things right in their performance in the classroom, and where they need to improve. They need to know if they need to wait another year, another term, another month before they do the exam again, right? We know there are different types of exams. We know there are different types of certifications. We know there are different objectives and purposes for these certifications. So if you think your learner is not prepared enough, but they need to do it as soon as possible, help them with proper feedback and guidance. Be honest with them, just like you would like your own teacher to be honest with you. This is only fair, right? We are talking about the lives of these people. We are talking about the impact that having that certification can have on their professional or academic lives. So being fair with them is extremely important. If you think they should wait a little bit longer to sit for the exam or to sit for the exam again, help them with a path, help them with a plan to get prepared, help them on how they can catch up. So suggest a few books, suggest a few routines, suggest a few activities that you think are going to add, that are going to build on the gaps that they presented if they, in case they have failed or did not get the result they needed for the exam, right? I think it's only fair, as I mentioned before, right? And then we know that the opportunities many times come to us uh, just out of the blue. So the time to get prepared is now. This is something that we should also reinforce with learners. We should also tell them that they should not wait until the day the opportunity comes. If you can help them now, if you can help them get prepared now, if you teach a prep course, if you teach any other kind of language course, but you can help them be aware of the certifications that exist, of the importance of them, the time is now. So many times learners will question why they should invest X reais in a certification, or dollars, or pounds, or whichever the currency is. The thing is, depending on the purpose that you have, and it doesn't have to be directly connected with moving abroad, as we mentioned before, right? All the exams, all the certifications I have taken in my life have been used to work here in Brazil. They have been important for my career as a language professional, right? So, in helping them understand, or sharing the knowledge with them of how important it is to be prepared when the opportunity comes, is now. The time for that is now. So if you can tell them to start devising their strategies, their techniques, building on their repertoire, and building on the blocks here for them to do the exam that best fits their demands, they should recommend they start doing it now, right? And the same for you as a language professional. If you are a teacher and you haven't done the certifications yet, to help you, to equip you with the tools to teach anywhere, to teach at more places, to teach in different contexts, the time is now for you to get prepared as well, be it in English, in Spanish, or in any other language, right? Um, this is what I had planned to cover with you today. So we looked at some facts and figures, we looked at learners and exams, and we looked at teachers and language awareness. And then, just to wrap up this moment here, of course, I had to bring some information about exams at CNA. So we don't offer only prep courses. We are a center that helps other centers offer the exams as well, English and Spanish, face to face and online. So whichever the need, we have the solution here. So that was a good way to wrap this up. So we have the certifications for younger learners, for teenagers, for adults. We have LinguaSkill, which is one of the most popular exams at the moment as well. So if you need further information about it, you can check our website, and you have a link here. Lyrica, you helped me put it here. I'm not sure that, I think it's only if you click on Saiba Mais here, learn more about it. You can go straight to our website, and then you can learn more about how we can cooperate. So if you are a learner, we can help you with that. If you are a teacher, we can help you with that. If you're here representing a school, right, we can help. And if you want to become a venue, we can help you with that as well, right? So whichever the situation, we have the solution for you here, right? Thank you very, very much for being with me here today. Here is my contact information. So you want to find me on LinkedIn, just scan this code here, right? My email is my first and last name here, catarina.pontes at cna.com.br. I think I can type it here. Just give me a second. And I'll be happy to answer questions if you have them, or to read your comments, to listen to your suggestions. So just let me know here. And of course, the references here, right? Cite your sources. Every time you deliver a presentation, make sure you cite your sources here. So here we have the reports I mentioned at the very beginning of the presentation from Cambridge English. Very, very thorough, comprehensive reports here to help you better understand the situation of English at work in the world. So not only here in Brazil, in the world. We have this one here from Revista Exame as well, about the importance of having certifications in your CV. More from Cambridge English. And here, quick tips for successful exam preparation. All right, so here are the references. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll just take a look if I missed any questions here. I don't think so. And that was it. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm just reading here. Great. Be in touch if you need any more suggestions, any more tips. I'll be happy to share with you. Okay. Bye bye. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you can enjoy it in spite of the rain here in Sao Paulo. I hope it's sunnier wherever you are.